What's up? Welcome back to Character Craft. I'm your host, Mitchell Drake. We're here going to build another D&D randomly generated character. Let's see if we can get the class wheel spinning. I'm really excited about the format. I'm enjoying it so far, so I might keep it this way for a while. 2 subclasses, perfectly fine. I wanted to point out a couple things on here. Custom subclasses, I'm going to be introducing a couple. I've done before. They're pretty fun. I don't have to explain what 4 is. That's just there to torture me. And I get Monk every time I roll 4. And Feel It Out. So Feel It Out's going to be kind of like the opposite of what I'm doing. I'm going to be taking a pseudo idea of a concept, and I'm going to be kind of reverse engineering it to make sure it's possible. And we'll get that bridge when we get there. Let's see what classes that we're going to end up with. Considering if I want to remove the classes that were chosen for the last character. Monk, okay. Wisdom, Dexterity, that's gonna be a bit of a problem, but we'll work it out. Monk, Rogue, alright, no, that actually shouldn't be too bad. There's the Shadow Monk, which shouldn't be bad. Unfortunately, Finesse doesn't work with unarmed strikes. I can always go Kensei and probably pick something like a Rapier. Well, you can take a look. There's options. I also like Inquisitive Rogue, which will get used out of like the Wisdom that we're buffing. So we'll take a look. We will be back. I will meet you at the Forge. Here we are at the Forge, and this one took a lot of research. Monks are not a friendly multi-class to work with, but I'm pretty satisfied with the final result. This is definitely not a character you would play if you're a min-maxer, but 100% would be a great role-playing opportunity. We've made a Jack Sparrow-esque Eladrin Swashbuckler Rogue Way of the 4 Elements Monk multi-class, and here's how I ended up at that extremely long-worded combination name. Let's start with race. Eladrins, they're my favorite subtype of elves. They're awesome. They're themed after the 4 seasons and gain the phase step teleportation ability. A free teleport is already awesome, but the super cool thing about Eladrins is that they gain additional effects based off of what season they're currently in. And you can change the season whenever you take a long rest, giving you 4 options to choose from and kind of diversify your playstyle. Autumn has a charming effect, winter has a frightening effect, spring lets you teleport a friend instead of yourself, and summer burns your surrounding enemies. You get a number of phase steps equal to your proficiency bonus, so it will scale as you do. And with the Monsters of the Multiverse update, you can choose which soft stat you use for your charm and fear saving throws, letting us pick wisdom, which will scale along with their monk abilities. They also get the standard elf features, dark vision, trance, a free perception skill, and advantage against being charmed. They're overall a great race option, especially if you're like me and love designing characters because you get to redesign them for every single season. We're going to start with the easy choice, the Rogue subclasses. There were 4 that piqued my interest: the Inquisitive, the Scout, the Soul Knife, and the Swashbuckler. The Inquisitive is good because it utilizes Wisdom for its features, and we'll be buffing Wisdom for our monk abilities anyway. The problem is the Inquisitive features require a bonus action to use effectively, and so do monk features. So they'll be competing, and that's not very good for a clear character design, so we're going to just remove that from the table entirely. We have the Scout Rogue, whose features make them very slippery and keep them out of melee range combat, but if we're playing a monk effectively, we should be ending our turn in that position anyway, so we're just going to remove that too. Soul Knife is very interesting. If we didn't just make a Soul Knife Rogue in the prior video, I think it would be a great option. Their Conjured Psychic Blades do count as monk weapons because they are simple weapons and activate your martial arts abilities, so you can do Flurry of Blows afterwards. If you want to know more about the Soul Knife Rogue, watch my previous video and say hi to Chef Jada for me. Let's talk about the Swashbuckler subclass. I chose this subclass because their fancy footwork feature gives you the most important piece of the mobile feat, which is considered a monk tax that they all need to take to operate optimally. Bouncing from enemy to enemy without consequence is extremely important to the monk, and fancy footwork lets us avoid that tax and focus on boosting our dexterity and wisdom scores as soon as possible. Rakish Audacity gives us a boost to our initiative roll equal to our charisma. We won't be focusing too much on that, but even a +1 or 2 to initiative is still cool. It also gives you a new way to set up your sneak attack damage. As long as you are attacking a creature within 5 feet of you, no other creatures are within 5 feet of you at the time, and you don't have disadvantage on the roll, then you get to add your sneak attack damage for free. Super simple. I also want to mention that this ability is something you gain. This doesn't replace any standard sneak attack rules that are already in effect. We are going to take this class to level 14, so we'll also be gaining the Panache and Elegant Maneuver features. Elegant Maneuver just gives you advantage on athletics and acrobatics checks for that turn when you activate it with a bonus action. Panache is interesting though. It's a long explanation, but here's the short version. As an action, roll a persuasion check against the target's insight check. If you win and they aren't hostile towards you, they are charmed for 1 minute. Pretty cool, nothing game breaking. But if the target is hostile towards you, now it is a taunting effect. That creature rolls disadvantage on attacks against any target other than you for 1 minute, as long as you are within 60 feet of them. Both effects end if you or your allies attack them, but this is a great way for locking down a troublesome enemy while you're basically running away and attacking their friends. Just as a quick example of synergy, you can target the enemy with Panache and use the taunting effect, phase step to higher ground, and end your turn at the max range of 60 feet while attacking every other enemy on the way there. The taunted target will have to either spend all of their movement getting to you to begin with, or attacking other targets with disadvantage for 10 full rounds of combat, as long as the whole party knows not to attack them. It's a great bit of control for a non-spellcaster and definitely useful. Now let's talk about monk subclasses. The biggest problem I found when looking through the subclasses is that rogue and monk weapons do not mesh well because of the restrictions of the rogue's sneak attack and the monk's unarmed strikes. Rules as written, the only available 2 weapons that can effectively use both features in the same turn are daggers and short swords. You can get around this by using the monk's optional dedicated weapon feature, or by choosing the Kensei monk subclass, but that requires either permission for dedicated weapon, or an admission of defeat and having to take the Kensei monk subclass. Kensei Monk is alright if having a rapier is a requirement for you, but really the only strength that the subclass offers is the calligraphy tools. Shout out to Tulok the Barbarian, the only other one who recognizes the power. Go check him out, makes great videos. If you're looking for the best option on paper, Shadow Monk is the right choice. The free spells you get with the subclass are all useful and add a lot of utility to the rogue. Teleporting between shadows is on theme for a rogue as well, but it honestly felt like a boring option to me. I don't make these characters to be optimal all the time, but I do try and make them fun for myself. Now onto the elephant in the room, the 4 Elements Monk. I already know some of you groaned and have already left a comment complaining about my choice, but hear me out. I'm fully aware it is widely considered the worst monk subclass overall, and for a lot of valid reasons. It was oversold and underdelivered. It was designed to make you feel like the Avatar, master of all 4 elements, but it fails in 4 major ways. The spell options they give you are mostly lackluster. The actually good spells they give you take way too long to scale to. The key cost for those good spells is horrendous, and at the end of the day, at level 17, you only get 4 disciplines in total. So, if this subclass is so bad, then why are we using it? Before we get into that, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. The 4 Elements Monk gets a feature called Elemental Attunement. It's basically minor control over earth, wind, water, and fire. It's a decent utility ability, basically like an Avatar prestidigitation. Now we can skip that and go on to the important stuff. We're choosing it because of the Water Whip discipline and how it has a lot of synergy with the Swashbuckler. Water Whip can be activated as an action for 2 key points and is good for 3 reasons. Has a range of 30 feet, the base 3d10 bludgeoning damage is pretty decent, and you can drag a creature 25 feet towards you or knock it prone. Making enemies prone is great for you and your party. All the melee attackers on your team will have advantage on their attacks, and you also get to add your sneak attack damage because you get to roll with advantage when in melee range. The dragging effect is great for swashbucklers because you can handpick your victims and pull them into a fight with you and out of their positioning. Now, 2 things that are interesting about Water Whip. 1, the dragging effect uses you as a focal point, meaning you can be at a different elevation than your target and still get the effect. Pulling a creature 25 feet into the air means that they fall during the start of their next turn, taking 2d6 bludgeoning damage. And landing prone, meaning that they have to spend half of their movement to stand up. And the second reason is really weird. I could not find any size limit on the dragging effect for Water Whip. The creature can be any size as long as they fail their dexterity saving throw. No athletics checks are required on your part. For example, if there's a dragon in the sky that you can't physically reach, just drag it to the ground with Water Whip. If you're fighting the Tarrasque, you can pull them upwards just for the hell of it. Water Whip isn't a spell, it's an ability, so the Tarrasque's magical resistance doesn't work. They'll have to burn a legendary resistance if they fail the dex roll, and you'll have a 5-minute conversation with your DM about how that's bullcrap. Now that we've gotten Water Whip out of the way, we're going to be taking the 4 Elements Monk to level 6, so we're actually going to get a second discipline as well. And I chose Fists of Unbroken Air. It is basically the opposite of Water Whip. Instead of a pull, it does a push. It sacrifices 5 feet of the push distance to guarantee the creature is prone as long as it fails the strength saving throw. Great for keeping a creature you don't really want to fight away from you. Face step is 30 feet away from them. Max range the fists and push the creature another 20 feet away and knock them on their butt. They'll need a movement speed of 100 feet to get back into direct combat with you, and swashbucklers are just good at running away at that point. They like to keep their fighting intimate, so this is awesome, just in case there's a second person that's trying to fight you as well as your enemy. And Water and Wind are also both very on theme for like a pirate-themed rogue class. Both Water Whip and Fists of Unbroken Air work really well with the Stunning Strike ability from the Monk. Stunned creatures can't move, speak, or take actions. They also automatically fail Dexterity and Strength rolls until the end of your next turn, meaning that Water Whip and Fists of Unbroken Air are always guaranteed to go through. Stunned creatures also have all attacks rolled against them with advantage, which is great for your sneak attack, and apparently this is something I found out while researching. You can apply Stunning Strike with your short sword. For some reason in my head it was always going to be a bludgeoning weapon or an unarmed strike required to use Stunning Strike, but I was wrong. So you can just pay 1 key point to activate Stunning Strike in the same instance you hit them with a sneak attack, and I thought that was pretty cool. Between Stunning Strike's Constitution saving throw, Water Whip's Dexterity saving throw, and the Fist of Unbroken Air's Strength saving throw, you always have a great use for your key points. You only have 6 maximum key points with the way that I'm building them, but you get them back on a short rest anyway, so have fun. The Swashbuckler Rogue has so much going on for itself that you really don't need to rely on your key points to be functional. Okay, let's get into a scenario. I can't believe this is my longest video yet, and this character doesn't even use spells. We find our elvish captain in her spring form, and she is in a predicament. Navy sailors have boarded her small ship and are attempting to arrest the pirates for their crimes. She has just reached the main deck from below and finds a member of her crew has already been badly wounded. There are 2 soldiers that stand between her and her fallen friend. One lone sailor positions himself to spar with her directly, and the other is moving to slaughter her ally. She draws her blade and attacks the first sailor, using a key point to activate Stunning Strike. Even if this fails, her fancy footwork lets her move away from that sailor without consequence and onto the one that stands between her and her friend. She uses her extra attack to strike that soldier from behind, activating Sneak Attack and ending him. Then uses her Phase Step as a bonus action to teleport her injured friend into the safety of the crow's nest above. Surrounded by the remaining Navy soldiers, she identifies their commander and persuades him into a parley using her Panache ability. She taunts him towards her as she positions herself under the Titan sails, and then in position, she face steps 30 feet upwards towards the mast. As this is happening, seawater cascades towards her open hand, and the commander is whipped up into the air by a stream of water. She gives him a coy smile as gravity returns to him, and he plummets to the deck with a loud crack. Pursuing her prey, she jumps after him in this instance. The commander struggles to lift himself up from the splintered planks beneath him, regaining his senses just long enough to fire his flintlock at the pirate descending upon him. It might be his concussion cocking, but he swears the pirate caught his bullet and threw it at one of the subordinates who was climbing the mast towards the crow's nest. She falls with such grace compared to the commander, who hit the ship like a meteor. She lands on top of him, stunning him with the flat of her blade first, then plunging the sword into him while he is dazed. She strikes him with a flurry of blows for good measure, removes her sword, and turns to see the Navy's remaining soldiers, standing in fear and awe of her. Does this scenario show optimal gameplay? Absolutely not, but it is cinematic and does show off the Swashbuckler and the Way of the 4 Elements Monk pretty well. I'm going to name this character Captain Ramona O'Keefe. I wouldn't have any reason to complain about having Ramona as a character at my table. Martial-focused characters don't derail campaigns as much as spellcasters do, and I would just need to really watch out in big boss battles with only a few enemies, but that's pretty standard with having monks in the party. Stunning Strike into an automatic prone is devastating for any enemy, so I just need to ensure the bad guys have enough legendary resistances to keep the battle going and keep it entertaining. I think Ramona would shine when being played by a dedicated role player, who is able to balance everything both classes have to offer while still leaning into their inner Jack Sparrow. The character is extremely flexible, offering different play styles depending on the season they chose that day, some out-of-combat utility, and some combat strategies that work in most situations. I want to thank everyone for sticking around through the video. Let me know what you think of Ramona O'Keefe, or if you have any ideas for a rogue monk multiclass that you think is better than mine. Even if they are, have a great day and sleep well.